I believe there's a prime creator above everything, but he doesn't interfere. But I think the person or the entity in charge of this matrix, I don't think they're benevolent at all.
What do you mean?
I don't think the deity that runs this realm is benevolent in any sense of the imagination. I believe that people are actually praying to an entity that doesn't actually encompass love and forgiveness and all of that other stuff. I think it's more of entrapment, enslavement, things of that nature. Because think about it. If you're all powerful, why would you care if people worshiped you? You know, it's really interesting how the Christians and Muslims seem to agree on one thing. You can be a rapist, you could be a murderer, you could commit any sort of sin, but as long as you take Jesus Christ or Allah as your Lord and Savior, it's all forgiven. Nah, karma doesn't work that way, pimp. So, you know, what I'm thinking is, you know, it kind of seems like a Ponzi scheme. And also, you know, if they want to talk about, you know, a lot of people say I'm running a cult and stuff like that, where there's no evidence of me running a cult. I haven't impregnated any of the women in my group, so how could I be running a cult? If I am, I'm doing a poor job of it. But, you know, when it comes down to it, the biggest cult in the world is Christianity, about 2.3 billion.
Damn.
And the second is Islam. Now, I agree with some things in Islam. I think when a society is degenerate, and this society is degenerate, by every stretch of the imagination, this is a degenerate society we live in. So yes, Islam would be helpful right now. When you have a degenerate society, religion is helpful. Yet when you have a society that is somewhat on the right track, then religion kind of holds them back. So it's like a balance with religion. When it's too degenerate, religion can be needy. Because I'd rather deal with the Bible thumpers and the Muslims than the LGBT. Any day of the week, I'd rather deal with these people who want to believe a woman was impregnated somehow by a miracle, or that a man who is illiterate wrote the Quran. You know, those kind of seem like fairy tales to me, but I'd rather deal with that than people who think a woman and a man constitutes a family.
Right. So you don't tie yourself to any specific religion?
I mean, if I was really to think about in any philosophy, maybe Buddhism.
Same.
You know, because I believe in karma and reincarnation and stuff like that. So whatever my parents are or whatever religion that is, I've never been to temple, you know, consistently or something like that. I'm more reincarnation, karma. I believe you're supposed to be a good person, you know, try to help the people you can. You can't help everyone. And if you try to help everyone, you're going to get burned. And you're going to think of me when it happens. You ever try to help people and then all of a sudden you get burned?
Yeah.
So sometimes, you know, when you try to stick your nose into business where a young soul has to evolve itself and you try to push them forward, sometimes, you know, you get burned for doing it.
They're not ready, right?
No, they're just not ready. You're a 33 life path. You know damn well you try to help with so many people, and how many times you get burned, brother?
Almost every time. Anytime I give a loan, I never get the money back.
Well, you know, you ever watch that movie, A Bronx Tale?
No.
So in The Bronx Tale, used to watch that movie. Everyone should watch that movie. Basically, you know, this guy owes someone $20, and he's like, "Don't worry about it. This guy's is out of your life for $20. Cheap."
I love that.
Cheap. They ain't coming back to ask you more. You know, can you imagine someone owes you money and they come back again?
Yeah.
You know, that's like the U.S. government.
The IRS.
100%.
Speaking of the government, election season, what are you thinking right now after the debate?
I mean, anyone who saw that debate and still thinks Joe Biden is fit to run this country, you need to get your mental stability checked. I mean, it's very obvious this guy's mentally ill. With forms of dementia. This guy, you know, I don't want to talk too bad about the guy, even though I hate his guts because of his politics and his policies and how he's running a money laundering operation in Ukraine and a whole list of people. You know, I mean, in all honesty, when I look at Joe Biden, your one son was in the military, attorney general, I believe, of a state, and he died, and that's unfortunate. But your other son's a complete up. You know, if you don't have good kids and you can't raise good quality kids, what right do you have to raise, you know, be the head guy in the United States of America? You can't even raise your kids right. Your kids out there, you know, with guns, all sorts of. I mean, this is a sick family. This is a sick family by any stretch of the imagination. They got issues. And when I look at Joe Biden, I don't want to go back because he's a senile old man at this point. But he has no business being in the White House. And I don't give a what you say about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a good businessman, and he knows how to get that economy going. And, you know, the economy helps everybody. It doesn't matter who you are, black, white, even, you know, gay, whatever. If you have a good economy in the United States of America, that helps everybody. That's like universal. It really does trickle down. If people are really rich, guess what? They're going to spend more money. That means more jobs, more opportunities open up. This isn't rocket science. I understand this is unique thinking to communists and a lot of feminists because, you know, it's the feminists that actually put Joe Biden in office.
Really?
I mean, let's think about it. Married women, 53% went for Donald Trump. Single mothers, 67% went for Biden.
Wow.
So women who decided they don't need a man in their life for one reason or another, maybe they couldn't keep their legs closed, maybe they couldn't do a wide variety of things, and they decided they need handouts from the government, decided to vote for Joe Biden. Shocking. Absolutely shocking. And this is why I keep telling people, and I don't care how controversial it sounds, 19 didn't do anything. It wasn't even that much damage compared to what the 19th Amendment did.
Which amendment is that?
Women's rights. Think about this. Before 1920, when women's rights was passed, this country had no debt. Zero debt.
Wow.
After women's rights got passed, women are always going to vote for entitlement programs. That's why women think like socialists and communists. That's why the Russian Revolution in 1917 was started by women. I'll give you a quick story. There is a country called Venezuela, and there is a guy running called Hugo Chavez, very charismatic leader. And he was overthrown by the U.S. government in 2002 in a coup. And they had their new president, puppet president. Again, the U.S. does what it does, CIA does what it does, but you have to understand it was to the benefit of that country from a capitalistic standpoint. And the women went in the streets and shut that down. And 20 years later, their daughters were prostitutes and their sons were criminals because socialism destroyed the country.
Wow.
Those are facts. Okay, I understand you want me to talk about numerology and astrology all the time, but we're going to throw some different numbers at people. Those are straight facts, and that's why it's important to make sure Donald Trump, who's not a saint by any stretch of the imagination, but we don't vote for a saint. We don't vote for someone who is going to make us feel better. We want a guy who's going to tell us the truth. There is no wars under Donald Trump. None. And by the way, you think this Ukrainian war would be happening if Donald Trump was still in office? Yet, zero chance it would be happening right now. Putin would have not went in if Donald Trump was president. Putin went in because Biden showed weakness. Do you remember Afghanistan?
Yeah.
Do you remember that pullout?
Yep.
Do you remember that debacle? That was Biden going against the same generals that were talking about Donald Trump. But Donald Trump didn't make that fiasco. Biden did. And what happened is that happened either 2020 or 2021, somewhere in those years. I think it was 2020. And that Putin saw that and he saw weakness. And you know, when a shark smells blood, it's going to go in. So it decided to test. And so far, they took about 22% of the country.
Wow.
They didn't need this war, and it wouldn't have happened because you have to show strength. And no one's going to press Donald Trump. China's not going to test that guy. No one's going to test that guy. They know what's going to happen. But Biden is weak. And when you see a weak global power under weak leadership, other countries going to test you.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what's going on right now. I mean, listen, think about it. If you're an American, think about this. you have people in other countries who are watching the president of the United States. And what do you think they're thinking? They're thinking this is a degenerate, fallen power. In a lot of cases, they might be right. But the fact of the matter is, if you are an American and America falls, so does your standard of living. You know, oil is kind of cheap for us compared to Europeans and Canadians. Inflation, as high as it is here under Biden, it's a lot higher in almost every other country in the world.
Wow.
So what you have to understand is, because the U.S. dollar is the global currency, that keeps that inflation and kind of exports it to other countries. If the dollar ever stops being that global reserve, and yes, the Saudis have not renewed the deal with the Americans. A lot of people have reported that the Saudis are not going to use the U.S. dollar, but you have to understand, they're not going to use it 100%. They're still going to use it 90% or 95%. So the petrodollar system's still going to work. But if America does not repair its relationship with the House of Saud, specifically Crown Prince, we're in a lot of trouble. Because if the Crown Prince decides, quite frankly, America, let's go to China, we're in for some trouble, bro. You're going to see inflation hit like 100% within 48 hours. Because what's going to happen is all those dollars are going to start flooding back into America because no one wants them anymore. Price of goods goes up like this. You don't want that. You do not want that to happen. So, the Crown Prince is cool with Trump. Put Trump in office kind of cures that problem. So, again, I am not saying Donald Trump is a perfect human being. I'm telling you, under Trump, a lot of good things are going to happen. And you have to understand, a lot of people in positions of power don't want that to happen. Is he the perfect candidate? Hell no. But once you get past that ideal stage where you should, like maybe it's 18, you think, I'm going to change the world. Once you get to mid-20s, 30s, you should start understanding that it's the lesser evil.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump is by far the lesser evil. It's much better to deal with the guy who paid a than a guy who is sniffing on kids.
Agreed.
Wherever you guys are watching this show, I would truly appreciate it if you follow or subscribe. It helps a lot with the algorithm. It helps us get bigger and better guests, and it helps us grow the team. Truly means a lot. Thank you guys for supporting, and here's the episode.